all men speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. Does anybody remember Ed McMahon? I was hoping.
Yep.
I was going to say that if there were some young people there, they're going to say, Ed McMahon. But you know, you can open up the newspaper any day of the week and read a story that goes something like this. The lottery jackpot is up to millions of dollars. No one won this week. Or someone did win this week, but hasn't yet come forward to claim it. If a winner is revealed, it's most often an ordinary Joe. Someone who has worked hard to earn his living, but who will never have to work a day in his life or her life again. Certainly not me, because I don't play it. It's fantasy that drives the lottery. The fantasy of instant wealth. Those states that have lotteries, and most of them do now, count each week on the fact that a large number of the state's residents share the same fantasy. Fools and money soon shall part, I think. Even those who don't play the lottery may have had similar daydreams. Maybe it was a fantasy surprise inheritance. I don't have anybody in my family. Or of here comes Ed McMahon comes showing up at your front door. Now, most of us consider wealth a blessing. In today's New Testament lesson, though, Jesus expresses a very different view. Blessed are you who are poor, he tells the crowd, for yours is the kingdom of God. Then, a little later, he has a few choice words for the wealthy. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. This is Luke's version of the Beatitudes. It's different from the more familiar version of Matthew. To begin with, it takes a place in a different location. In Matthew, it's the Sermon on the Mount. And in Luke's, it's the Sermon on the Plain. Yet the biggest difference between Luke's version and Matthew's is that Luke includes the statements of woe. Not only is Jesus blessing certain people in Luke's version, he also cures others. Jesus blesses the poor, the hungry, and those who weep. He preaches woe to the rich, the satisfied, and those who laugh. It's no wonder most folks prefer Matthew's version. Luke's raises troubling questions, like, is it wrong to be rich? Is it a sin to be successful? What's Jesus got against laughter? Some may criticize Jesus for playing to the crowd's basic instincts. If this is a gathering of common folk, of the poor and the nearly poor, what better way to cure favor than to blast the rich? Jesus is doing more, though, than just telling the mob what they want to hear. He's imparting a spiritual truth. He has to do with the nature of blessings. Now, in times of trouble, a well-meaning friend may provide this counsel. Just count your blessings. Look on the bright side. Concentrate on the good things in life. Look away from the bad. The world is always eager to count blessings. How blessed we are with the fine house we live in, the classy car that we drive, and what a great looking bunch of our family is. You know, I remember when I was growing up, besides being poor, I always wanted a hunting rifle. Oh, I loved hunting. I'd go with my grandfather and my uncles. Just loved doing it. They didn't love having me along because, well, I'm not going to tell you what they said about me. But I would fall down, make all kinds of noises. The deer would never stand by. You couldn't sneak up on a deer with me. But I always wanted a rifle, but not in my house. You see, my father was a sniper during World War II. He didn't like guns in the house. A lot of people in town would call him and he would sight in a rifle for him, but that's basically all he did. But he didn't come in the house. So he never would have a rifle, and I always wanted one. And one day at work, he worked down to Cutler Naval Yard when they were building it on the towers and the big buildings. They were coming around and selling raffle tickets. And his boss, and he was standing there talking, and they came around and they had one ticket left for sale. And my boss said, "No, Bernard, you buy it." He said, "No, I don't like raffles, and I don't like and I don't need a rifle." And there were two rifles for sale, one 22, one 33. He won the 33, and he gave it to me. Blessed for me. The world has its own set of Beatitudes, in contrast to Jesus' list. Blessed are the rich. Boy, I was rich with that new rifle. And I still have it. Even though it's at my son-in-law's, but it's in a gun cabinet. And it will go to my oldest granddaughter, because she is a hunting freak, just like the rest of the family is. The famous, those who have big houses on the beach. Blessed are those with perfect children who move and shake, even the movers and the shakers, who have their photo on the cover of People's Magazine. Blessed are those who know what they want and take it. And as Luke tells it, Jesus has no time for any of this. In the Sermon on the Plain, Jesus turns the world's values right upside down. He blesses those whom the world calls accused or accursed, and he preaches woe upon those whom the world admires. Those Beatitudes of his are revolutionary good stuff. Although Jesus' words may pinch at times, in our deepest moments of clarity and insight, we realize he's absolutely right. Money can't buy happiness. As the old proverb goes, I've always said, let's give it a try. Good health can't buy happiness. All of us know people who have never spent a day in a hospital. Yet, who seems not to have an ounce of self-esteem? Harmonious family life, a meaningful job, creature comforts, leisure time to pursue hobbies. None of these guarantee happiness. We can have all of them and still feel empty inside. And when Luke reports Jesus saying, "Woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation," it's a very unusual Greek word he uses for consolation. It's a commercial term that means having received what is due. It's a rubber stamp impression at the bottom of an invoice. Paid in full. The high roller are paid in full, but won't get much more. It's kind of like the beer commercial on TV, you know. The one, you know, with a group of men sitting around the campfire. Their canoes are pulled up to the shore. Their tents are pitched. Their dinner is cooked. There's a gorgeous sunset. It doesn't get any better than this, one of them says to his friend. How sad, how sad. Don't get me wrong. It's good where they are. There's food and fire and friendship, and yes, as some would say, they're glad to hear even beer. Yet, if it truly doesn't get any better than that, if there's nothing more to life, then woe to them, for they have received that consolation. Oscar Wilde once said, "In this world there are only two tragedies. One is not getting what one wants, the other is getting it." The wonder of God's power to bless is that it happens regardless of our circumstances. It was Helen Keller, the blind deaf-mute, who triumphed over her disabilities, who said, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming of it." God's way of blessing us sometimes is not to remove the curse of our complaint or the cause of it, either way you want to look at it, but to give us power to prevail over it. It's like the remark of the philosopher Emerson, "It is the wounded oyster that mends its shell with its pearl." Who's to say what a blessing and what's a curse in the great scheme of all the things? From our perspective, what looks like the greatest calamities may be, in reality, be our salvation. When Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor, the hungry, and those who weep," he is bearing witness to the truth that God is in charge of the creation, and that God isn't finished with us yet. God will bless us if we have faith. One day God may bless us with what we want, or just as likely, God may bless us through what we don't want. It's not so much counting our blessings that's important as it is the blessings that counts. God's blessings. That sojourns through us through wealth and poverty, health and sickness, and laughter and tears. Look, here comes Ed McMahon now. Let us pray. Lord, we give you thanks for blessings. Both those things we know to be blessings, and those things we loathe and fear, that turn out to be blessings in disguise. Help us to trust you more fully than we do. Help us live in faith, knowing that both in this life and the next, you are watching over us, providing for us, caring for us. Amen.
Amen.
If you will turn to page 12 in the hymnal, 12B, if you have the large print Bible.